Hey, team players, and welcome back. Love to have you here. Love that we're making great community choices here, getting wins, getting ready for the playoffs. And most of all, guys, love you guys being here with us every day, making stuff awesome and getting good answers. Looks like today you guys are just stuck with me, so that's part of life. We're just gonna have to deal with that one, and that's where we're at. So let's dive right into it. Dude, Jason doesn't want Granado to play, and quite frankly, neither do I, guys. It's the Niners is one of these interesting spots where they're a favorite right now. It's a home game. It's a Thursday night game tonight. I'll let you know outright, I am on the Rams money line with Kittle scoring a touchdown, even though it's a contradictory bet. But that's where I am at for tonight. I do not want Granado to play for a bunch of reasons. One of which is that in the semifinals for my league here, the guy I'm playing has him. And if he doesn't put up any numbers, it obviously is good for me. So that's what I'm looking for there, Jason. I'm 100% with you, and I know that there's a lot of you guys out there in that same department. So start one, Granado. I'm already starting Purdy and Jennings tonight, or start Pacheco, Stevenson, or Cooper. So, Jason, I'm on Pacheco this week. I'm literally starting my playoffs. Pacheco would be the guy I want to go with. There's a lot more security with Pacheco. You know that he's going to get the touches now that he's being ramped up. And Kansas City is in a position now where it's all about the placement in the playoffs. They've had a lot of scares this season overall, not the least of which is coming off of that Raiders game where, quite frankly, they should have lost that one. You can make an argument that had Ladd played, it would have been a very different game. They would have lost last week to the Chargers. So, seeing that this is Pacheco's third game back, I fully expect him to be in full game mode, going at it, and quite frankly, him being the reason that the offense keeps going. Kansas City overall has not been a super high scoring offense. And when you throw Pacheco out of it, it got hindered. Putting Pacheco in it will be able to grind it out the way that they want to win, the way they're playing this year. And I do think that it overall will put them in the best spot. So, Jason, to answer your question, start one. My answer is going to be Pacheco all day. Austin, Hurts or Levis, man, to me, you can't get away from your dogs in the big game. Ignoring the injury status of Levis, you just can't get away from the fact that Hurts has been a top 5 quarterback the entire year. He's like the biggest touchdown vulture in the league, taking all of Saquon's tackles, getting stuck inside the one. So for me, all day, that's Hurst. I appreciate that you just threw that out there because we probably got that question 5 times this week, but it's Hurts, man. And we're just going to go with that. But I love the love. Also forgot what you guys said yesterday between Ertz or Fergie for this week. Jason, that's because this is one of the ones where Bob and I were in conflict about. You can certainly point out that Fergie has a ton of volume, which he does. But Ertz is in a better scoring offense. He's in the red zone more, and there's just flat out more points going around. And the biggest contributor to fantasy points scored is real life points scored. Now, obviously, turnovers and field position affects it a little bit, but that is the biggest correlative fact. So, in general, when you project that the Redskins are going to score many more points than the Cowboys, it's better to have pieces of that team given relative amounts of volume. If there's an insane volume difference, that's a different conversation. But the way that Ertz work and Fergie's work, they're very similar. And to me, the tiebreaker goes to the team that's going to score more points overall. Austin, do I play Jennings tonight? I'd have to bench either Hill or JSN. I'm kind of wanting to bench JSN. Austin, if that's your feeling, that's what you want to do, go with it. Jennings is one of these guys that certainly has Bob uses the word optics a lot. Basically, what we mean by that is that the coverage he excels against is what the Rams historically run. And Jennings is in a spot where he essentially has become the guy in San Francisco, or at least the number 2 behind Kittle. And if you're feeling like you want to bench JSN, then do it. If it's going to give you more joy and happiness, do it. I mean, both of them are younger players that prior to this year were hopefully they turn into something. Jennings obviously a much longer shot at it. And if that's where your feeling is that that's where you want to roll, go with Jennings, man. That's what you should be doing. Go with the guys that give you happiness and joy entering into the year. Why it's Swift questionable? Thank you, Tyler, for being on top of it. ESPN said it's a quad groin injury. One of them is Cyrus, then the other. Okay, so yeah, at the end of the day, that's if that's the answer, that's the answer. I didn't see anything about Swift. Let me go into the injury report here real quick and see what his status is there. But again, do you really want to play Swift anyway? Just as a side question, because Chicago hasn't done anything, anything in the ground game at all. So I'll pull it up to figure out the answer about what happened to him. But my answer is boom. I wouldn't really want to be there. Oh, you meant serious. So serious over with Oakland. Listen, I'm gonna go off this little tangent here about the Raiders that needs to be said. We're at the time of the year here when you're just trying to find the PC parts that you can build with moving forward. The Raiders have now extracted 3 different practice squad running backs in a hope of being able to find the guy. And they're out of it. They know they're out of it. So they have no risk in a complete swing and miss. There is this, I don't know if roll is the right way to say, manipulation of the system that you can do where if you got a guy at the practice squad, he's on your active roster, he has an injury, you essentially could stash him until next training camp by throwing him on the IR. Now, I'm not saying the Raiders are intentionally doing that, but I'm also not saying it's an un-Raiders move either. So the thing with it is that if you get the volume, it's great. But required for the Raiders to give you anything is they have to get first downs. And when you get to 3rd and 5, I just fundamentally don't think the Raiders are going to convert enough of them to have their running back be meaningful. So again, this could be the actual hammy, or it could be a situation where it's manipulating the system. Either way, the Raiders have nothing to lose. So this is why you've heard from me all year. I've never been on the Raiders running game from day one, regardless of which one it is. And my stance isn't going to change. It's not like they got a better offensive line. They certainly didn't get a better quarterback. It's a stagnant offense at best that hopes and prays chucking the ball to 2 people. If you're on either Bowers or Myers, okay, that's worth being on with the Raiders. But for the rest of it, it's just not something that I really want to be a part of there. All righty. Quincy, need 2 running backs, 1 flex. Gibbs, Monty, Garendo, Charbonnet, or Kyron. Quincy, you are living in first world problems, and I love it. So Garendo is the one that's the easiest one for me to pull off the shelf. My answer is going to be one of the 2 Detroits, Charbonnet and Kyron, assuming, of course, that Walker's out. If Walker is in, it's both Detroits and Kyron. So in terms of which version of Detroit would you rather have in Monty or Gibbs, with them playing the Bills, I mean, flat out, the Bills just kind of got gashed by Kyron. And the running back that's more similar to Kyron is Monty. So, because Kyron doesn't really have the explosive, he has the volume and push the pile forward that Monty has. So, if you want to go off recency bias, you can go with Monty. If you want to go for just sheer shock and awe, which Gibbs is, that's the answer there too. So, Quincy, my quick answer, assuming Walker's out, is going to be Monty, Charbonnet, and Kyron. Welcome, Jesse. All righty, Quincy, next one up. Start 1 quarterback. Well, 2. And I need 1 running back, 2 receivers, 2 flex, and the super flex. We got Tracy, McCormick, Jennings, Cup, Debo, Monty, Lamb, and May. So therefore, your super flex and quarterback is 2 in May. They're your only 2 choices. That one's easy enough. Only 1 running back out of that group. I just kind of went on the entire list about why I'm not serious with McCormick. So Tracy's the answer too, but it's not a pretty situation. Playing Baltimore after a bye is going to be ugly. They love running the ball up when they don't have a spotlight pointed on them. Baltimore under the Harbaugh administration, has always been the team with the single largest margin of victory every season. Like, they love running the score up on the inferiors. Now they get Hard Knocks in their locker room to give them extra love for it. They might score 30,000 points tomorrow. So I do not want to be a part of anyone with the Giants. That being said, if McCormick is in a spot where he's injured, you can't use him. So you're stuck with Tracy in a less than awesome situation. Now it comes down to four roster spots between Jennings, Debo, Kupp, Mooney, and Lamb. I can't play both Niners. And we're basically where we are always at the end of the year with the Niners, with a coin flip of which one's going to get the ball and which one isn't. So the politics answers go with Debo. He's bitching. The on the field watching the game tape is go with Jennings because he destroys the coverage. So I'm going to go with the tape and go with Jennings, but know that there's a possibility of that. Giant caveat is make sure you know who's playing quarterback in Atlanta. Because if Penix is coming in, I don't want to touch Mooney. Otherwise, I'm benching Debo and McCormick out of your group. Oop. Next one up here, Jesse. Would you start Jennings in the rain? It might rain a little bit. It's been raining on the Niners all year, guys. But in all actuality, the rain is not the concern for me, unless it's going to be like a torrential downpour, which historically San Francisco doesn't get. If it looks like it's Cleveland or Chicago and it's just the death of an environment, I wouldn't want to put them up there if I had another valuable choice. But if it's just run of the mill, less than 15-mile-an-hour winds, yeah, I'm not going to be worried about that at all. This is the team, although, that got shut down in Buffalo because of that snow that happened. So it is worth considering. Myers with a third-string quarterback or Jalen Reed? This is the real question here. So I'm on Jalen Reed. I'm on Reed for a bunch of reasons here. One of which is that I still believe he's the best receiver, fundamentally speaking, of all of the Packers. He hasn't truly separated himself as much as you might want him to, but he still is the most talented player in that receiving room. When we look at the Packers overall, it's not the worst matchup as far as when we look at what the projected totals and spreads are going to be. We got them projected to put up, what is that here? The Packers at 23 points, which is right around mid for every week. So we're talking about the mid amount of total points scored by the offense, and Vegas, which is at a severe disadvantage, relatively speaking, before we even factor in that third string quarterback. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go with Reed over Myers. But Myers has that situational advantage that is one of the things that makes the statisticals, make fantasy football get a bad name, because Reed's, if you were doing a real draft, like who would you want on your team? It'd be Reed all day, every day. Rome the host. What's up, my man? Start 2 receivers, 1 flex. Jennings, Ladd, Thielen, Tillman, Allen, and McCormick. So I want to go with Ladd. If Ladd is healthy, Ladd is going to be my starting point selection. The Chargers are in a sprint, and Ladd is their best weapon by far as we sit here today. So Ladd would be my starting point answer of that group. I do get concerned with Carolina and specifically Thielen if Coker comes back. There is no doubt that the Panthers are building for the future, and Coker is in that picture, and Thielen isn't. They got rid of Deontay Johnson, who, by the way, disappeared in Baltimore. But they got rid of him essentially to give Leggett and Coker more of a standing, more reps. And I worry about Thielen if Coker plays. Flat out, I do. So I'm going to put him towards the bottom. I'm assuming Tillman eventually is going to get back on the field. And when he was out there, he was JMO's BFF. Now, since then, Judy has shown up a lot, but that was all without Tillman out there. It's an offense that doesn't care if they throw picks. and they're chucking it downfield basically just to give the people a show so that you'll buy that one last Brown piece of crap before you go into the Christmas season. So that being said, I think Tillman has huge potential this week, although he is on negative floor. And then Jennings is probably your second best by all metrics to go. So if I'm ranking all of that out, I'm going to go with Ladd, Jennings, and Tillman. Again, that's with the assumption that Hall's playing and that Allen's going to become nothing. If Hall doesn't play, Allen would still be behind Tillman on my list because I want to go for the Tillman all out. So to give you the full rankings and then you let your injuries dictate accordingly, Ladd, Jennings, Tillman, Allen, Thielen, McCormick. Next up, pick 2 to start. Garendo, McCormick, Tracy. Oh, so you got to start one of those two. Well, whichever one's healthier. I mean, Garendo, it would be the one I would lean, but I can't start both of them coming off the injury risk. I don't want to start McCormick, period. We had an earlier pick between those two where it was just Tracy McCormick, and I begrudgingly chose Tracy, and consistency holds that answer. So it's going to be Garendo and Tracy in your ideal situation here, Derek. So, guys, love your questions. Keep firing them at me, and I will keep answering them back to you. You know the team players here. By the way, thank you all for adopting the quick hitter and deep dive system that we have implemented earlier in the year. It really keeps a good way of keeping the show flowing so we know how long basically you're going to stay with us, because while we love everyone who goes back and watches the replays, the vast majority of people catch us live or not at all. That's why the quick hitter and deep dive system is so amazing. Gordon, Ladd or JSN, McCormick or Braylon if Brees is out. I love Ladd. I absolutely love Ladd, and I'm not going to come off the Ladd bus now. So, Gordon, it's going to be Ladd over JSN, again, because of the percentage share of that offense when it's in a situation that it flat out needs to win. The Chargers are basically in you have to win out now mode for the simple fact, and it's not because they are in danger of missing the playoffs. It's because if you get the 5 seed in the AFC, it is so much easier than the 6 or the 7. Houston is just not on par with the other 3 division winners in the AFC. So the Chargers are going to be going all out, and Ladd is that engine. I know JSN is fighting for the division, but with the other options arising, particularly Sharps, JSN is falling less and less in terms of they need to revolve the game plan around him. Also, not to mention his best era was when Metcalf was out. Now it's in a situation where Ladd should give you a much higher ceiling, and that's what I want to go with in the playoffs. For your second half of your question about your backs here, if Brees is out, the question is Braylon Allen without any doubt. Without any doubt. Again, I don't really want to go down the McCormick route. I answered him a couple of minutes ago, about 10 minutes ago, deeping dive into McCormick. It's just not an awesome situation. So with that being said, you want to go with Braylon if Brees is out. But again, if Brees is in, Braylon's useless. So you have to go with McCormick. So that one will be dictated by the injury report as you show up on Sunday morning. Steve, welcome back. Would you drop Amari Cooper for Josh Downs? Not that I'm going to start him, just an emergency. You're on your bye. So I don't think you want to pick up Downs just as a starting point. As we look as far as you're specifically asking this question for week 16, as we look diving into it here, week 16, Indy's going to be playing against Tennessee. I never really got on the Colts receivers at all this year, and history showed that was a pretty decent selection. So I'm not really running to go there. That being said, Cooper's not anything special either in terms of what I project he's going to do in the cold snow. So I don't want to pick up Downs for sure. If you keep Cooper, you're going to be in a spot of he just had 2 decent-ish games. Do I want to roll him out again? But Steve, I think your best bet is don't start either of them. And going back to that conversation we had before about stashing your defense, if you haven't done that yet, Cooper is a viable choice to do that with. although I might not want to cut them until the kickoff window at your game time. So if you cut them right before the kickoff at noon, and most waivers, you can't pick them up again until the following week, no one will be able to jack them to get the points you should put up this week. Just a little waiver wire manipulation for you guys. What defense for this week? Baltimore, dude. No way around it. Baltimore is going to destroy the Giants. Rome, that's an easy one. We have them as the number one defense this week. The Giants are, first of all, they're playing DeVito again. But even when they were playing Locke, they were projected to put up nothing. Baltimore should absolutely destroy the Giants in a ridiculously stupid fashion that, Hard Knocks will get all crazy and excited about. Really having a hard time deciding for the guilty. I need one running back, one receiver, 3 flex. All right, Jennifer, let's get this thing set up here. Options being Monty, Chuba, Jennings, JSN, Lamb, James Cook, Brian Robinson, Kupp, and Higgins. Okay. So we're talking the one I'm putting in this roster no matter what is going to be Monty. That's going to happen. You also pretty much need to start Lamb no matter what. So now of the remainers, what are the 3 that we want to put in here? So we got JSN, Jennings, Chuba, Cook, Robinson, Kupp, and Higgins. The next one off my list is going to be Cooper Kupp. Everything about tonight screams offense. Assuming, of course, the rain doesn't become torrential. Tonight screams offense. Kupp has a great matchup. Jennings has a great matchup, and that's part of why it screams offense. So I'm okay with putting both of them in. And then looking at the remainder option, Chuba, JSN, Cook, and Higgins, you really have an open window. The problem you might have with Higgins is, will Cincinnati have to score and keep scoring? Tennessee, if Levis is dinged up and gets, in effect, unreliable again, Higgins in a spot. Higgins is also in a spot that I'm fearful of the entire year, that he's going to pull himself out and never return to go collect his free agency money. That's a fear I have about Higgins. I have more about any other player in the league. So Higgins is probably going to be on the outside looking in for that, because JSN is a completely great option, and so is Chuba. And really, that's where my final decision is coming down to, is between Chuba and JSN. Which one do I want to stick in there? When we look at Carolina this week, they're up against Dallas. Dallas isn't exactly the greatest at stopping the run. JSN is playing for their lives against the Packers. You can make an argument for either direction. I'm personally love running backs because of their volume. So I'm going to lean towards Chuba. But if you're in a spot where if you're worried about losing, the floor tends to be the safer security blanket, which is what Chuba gives you. But if you want to go for the gusto and just nail the opponent home, that's the ceiling, which I think JSN gives you a higher one. I'm going to leave that one in the year department. But either way, I'm definitely starting the other ones being Monty, Jennings, Lamb, and Kupp. I'll leave the final choice up to you between Chuba and JSN about whether you want that ceiling or that floor. I have the Eagles and the Cowboys moving forward as your defense. Yeah, it's going to be hard to fight those two as defenses in the playoffs here, because it looks like for Week 16, you're going to want to go with Dallas against Tampa. Philly is going to be playing Washington. And then in the following week, Philly is playing Dallas, and Dallas obviously playing Philly. So you might want to get off the Cowboys there, because unless you're starting them against Tampa and you have no better matchup, I'd want to get out of the Cowboys. Again, I think we mentioned a couple times here some of the great defenses to go up there in terms of just the matchup. I really like Tennessee that week, especially if the Colts lose this week. The other one you can look at that we've been liking a lot in terms of the Week 16. This is a Week 16 now defense, guys. You have a great matchup here with the Chargers, because Denver is in a spot where, again, they're playing the Chargers. The Chargers defense is built to shut down Denver. But the best one for Week 16 is definitely Buffalo. If you can get Buffalo on your bench in the snow against New England, that's going to be your best bet. The second best one even though they're not giving a whole lot. Bob and I have disagreed about this, is Atlanta, because again, the Giants are actively trying to lose. And then the Packers aren't a bad week 16-1 either to go there. I have no problem using the Eagles in week 17, shutting the Cowboys down and knocking them out of the world. Seems to be very much what the Eagles are all about. Not to mention the Eagles will be fighting for the NFC bye. Njoku out, Judy and Tillman should be on fire. Dude, Derek, you're totally right. With Njoku's injury, it all comes down to literally will Tillman be there. A word of caution, though, if they're both out and it's just Judy, I think Judy will have a very hard time. I think he needs one or the other to give the separation for him. There, you look at the highlights of some of Judy's best plays, it's Tillman running the defender off of him so Judy can get so open, or it's Njoku doing it. So I'd put caution in if they're both out. But if Tillman comes, I think both could be a pretty good smash hit, and both relatively cheap in your DFS lineups. Myers or Pacheco? Do you guys do kicker quarters? I don't do kicker anythings. So just starting with that. You guys know me, I hate kickers. I've been getting that post a lot. So, but Myers or Pacheco? So, Tyler, you point out very well earlier, we're on like the 28th different quarterback now with Oakland. And the other bigger thing with the Raiders is their offensive line can't block anyone to save their lives. I do think that Pacheco is going to be the stable force keeping Kansas City in a float and moving them forward. Kansas City is completely fine playing these slow, methodical games. Pacheco will be the one to help make that happen. He's going to get the volume. I want to go with the safety that I know he's going to get the ball rather than watching the quarterback get sacked over and over again and Myers not doing anything. CC, I do not need more kicker love here, man. You're like the only one. Hopkins or JMO? There's a good question. Hopkins, if you look at his per plays, is one of the most efficient receivers in the league right now. Going back to that trade deal that they did was with Hopkins only being allowed to play X percentage of snaps, the Chiefs are going out of their way to maximize them. I want to put this clause out there for you guys who play playoff fantasy. I don't think Hopkins will be as valuable in the playoffs as he is in the regular season because he'll get too many reps. I think they'll actually wear him out in the process. That being said, JMO is a wild card and a half, man. If you're going for high ceiling, JMO's the answer. By all accounts, this game should be a shootout. But the other thing is Detroit has also kind of rediscovered that this Laporta guy still scores touchdowns. And that's JMO's necessity. If he doesn't get a touchdown, he doesn't have a big week. Same is true with Hopkins. So do you want to have the guy who's realistically the fourth or fifth option, or do you want to have the guy that they're building the offense around when they're on the field? So it's completely based on, do you want to go with the lower volume but higher effectiveness once he's out there, or do you want to go with out there basically every play, doesn't get the ball, but when it hits, it does. So my gut's telling me go with Hopkins, but you can certainly make an argument for JMO. I just believe that Hopkins is going to give you a better floor, and with relatively similar-ish upsides, I think I want to go with Hopkins in that department. Alrighty, who to start between Chuba or that's Chubb, Cleveland's Chubb, Worthy, or TJ? I'm assuming that's Brian Thomas Jr., right, Jess? Can you let me make sure that's Brian Thomas Jr.? Because if it is, it's going to be Brian Thomas Jr. If it's between Chubb or Worthy, I'm going to have to go with Worthy. Chubb basically isn't playable. So, I mean, he hasn't done anything. They brought him back early just to try to get him statistics so that he can get his incentives and to give a little bit of PR boost to Cleveland. I can't go with Chubb at all. So it's going to be Worthy. If that's Brian Thomas Jr., it's going to be Brian Thomas Jr., though, on top of all of it, because Brian Thomas Jr. is apparently quarterback proof. We used to talk about how receivers are defense proof like Jamar Chase is, but it's the Hawk. All right, Jess. This is interesting. I love the Hawk. The Hawk has been on fire, but he's also a tight end. And we just saw that giant blow up that Minnesota had with Addison showing up taking 3 touchdowns. I don't believe that's sustainable for Addison. I do believe the offense out of Minnesota is sustainable though, which should rub into the Hawk. You have the risk of Worthy going off anytime, but the Hawk, this is very similar to the last question. The Hawk is going to give you a very stable floor, but his ceiling isn't as high. Worthy's ceiling is much higher on his best day than the Hawks, but his floor's also lower. So, Jesse, it really comes down to, I would ask myself this question. If ESPN is saying that you're projected to be in a spot where you already have a 5+ point lead, I'd go with the Hawk because I want to have the floor so my lead doesn't fall out. But if it's a tight game or you're projected to lose, you got to chase the points, and Worthy would be the one to do it with. So that's how I would go with that one there, Jesse, for you. Is there any concern with McBride? Aside from the fact that Kyler Murray's been throwing him the ball. So the issue is with McBride is that I would say no. First off, there's no volume concern with McBride, and that's his bread and butter for fantasy. So no, but the larger sense, for all those who are asking the fantasy questions, I know a bunch of you are doing fantasy out there. The larger sense for McBride is this his peak? Because for the future, I'm talking about off-season trades, McBride is certainly one of these assets I'm going to want to move. Because Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to step up and take a big chunk out of his target share. And this could be McBride's peak year despite the lack of touchdowns. So when I look at concerns for McBride, it's long-term after the season's over. Right now, I don't really have any. Next up, if Walker plays, now we're asking questions, either Walker or McCormick, hope Walker sits so I can just start Sharps with no worries. Well, ain't that the truth? John, it might just be Sharps regardless, though. I mean, you got to see what the final reports are on Walker. You got specifically, I want to see what the Thursday and Friday practice reports are because they're the two most important for any Sunday game. If he's limited in either one, but especially if he's limited in both, I'm going Sharps regardless. So that's how I would look at that one, Jonathan. Steve asking this is either a gambling question or straight out money line question. Who's winning in tonight's game between the Niners and the Rams? We have it as a pure pick 'em. So from the gambling standpoint, take the points. From my answer, I'm leaning the Rams. And my bet for tonight already, as they give you all the free bets, all the sites do, is the Rams score. And even though it's a contradictory bet, Kittle gets the touchdown. I just look at that. All my lungs need Kittle. It's more just rooting for the stuff that I want. But if I were going to sit down and do a just straight up, my money's going to be on the Rams. I think they're a better healthy team. I always have felt McVay is the better coach. And I think that they're going to put the nail in San Francisco as one of the better rivals in coaches that under the radar really hate each other, that most people don't report enough. All right, better defense this week. Cardinals versus New England, Commanders versus New Orleans, or Jets versus Jacksonville. First off, all horrible offenses you want to play. So I get why you bring up the matchup plays at them. And I believe they're all at home. So that's the other part of it. In terms of actually talented rosters, the Jets are night and day more talented than the other three. The problem is the Jets are openly quitting. And we saw Jacksonville only put up, 10 points last week against a decent Tennessee defense that was scraping or was fighting on defense. I'm not sure we're getting that out of the Jets. So I'm going to take the Jets off the list. My next tiebreaker goes to, because I think both these Commanders and Cardinals defense are have no talent, for lack of a better way of saying it. I'm going to go with the Commanders because they're coming off of the bye. And the Cardinals are playing New England, who's coming off the bye. So the bye math goes towards the Commanders, and that's what I'm going to look at there. Mostly, again, because, the Jets quit. He McBride turned up on the injury report. Awesome. He's turned up on the injury report on Wednesday. Let's point this out here for what. So unless that's today's active Thursday report, which you don't normally get the West Coast teams in yet, the Wednesday injury reports league-wide is just simply put the rest day at this point in the season. Anyone who is either older or has been integral to the team, they're always on the Wednesday injury report. That's why the Wednesday practice means nothing. That's what I said. If he's on today's injury report, if he's on tomorrow's injury report, I worry about it. But to the broader sense, no, I'm not worried about him being on today's report. If he's on tomorrow's, that's going to be a different sense. Yeah, Rams all day today too. That's where I'm at too. Any concerns about Amon-Ra St. Brown? People have been kind of down on him after these last couple of weeks. I get it. The one thing that Detroit showed us was that when push comes to shove and they need to get their offense going, they go to Amon. He is their get out of jail, break in case of emergency. All of those cliches are what Amon is. But he's not the starter. Their starter is their running game. So when we look at this week in particular, it's a shootout and a half. I mean, there are going to be points all over the place here in what should be a really, really good game. So when I look at this, I want to be on I want to be on that passing game because I think for the first time in a while, they're going to get pushed where they have to use them. They're not stupid either. They know he's their weapon. He knows he is there, but they're also doing something from a schematical standpoint that's very smart, which is put the spotlight on others so that when it comes to matter, the playoffs, it's less on Amon. It's not a bad strategy. In terms of the fantasy playoffs, I'm not worried about him. He's still getting open when you watch the tape. And I listen, I don't have the worry about Amon when it comes down to push and shove because they're going to give him the ball, especially this week in the shootout. Just lost the Joku. Unfortunately, you did, George. Who should I pick up? Hunter, Gray, Schultz, Calcario. None of these are exactly awesome matchups. So you can make the argument for Schultz coming off his bye that this is possibly the best time you're going to get him in terms of the healthiness down there in Houston. He's playing Miami. It's a game that, quite frankly, Houston kind of secretly needs to start winning. They're only 2 points ahead or 2 games ahead of Indy, and they need to get on it. So you can make a decent argument that if Schultz is going to shine, this is going to be his moment. And he's probably the one I would select out of this group. The other choice is to me is Hunter Henry. And that's, again, coming off the bye in a spot where they're just trying to figure out how to get made comfortable. And Henry has been one of those guys. Henry, to me, is 2 touchdown dependent to want to pick. So I'm going to go with Schultz. Noah Gray is he's a nice backup story. And he's the one I'd want next year, but I don't want Noah right now. So unless you're in a keeper and you're able to keep Noah, I'm just going to pass on that. And my ultimate answer is going to be Schultz. If Njoku doesn't play, what should we expect from Judy? So we had a similar type of question to this a little bit earlier, Austin. From Judy, you basically need to have one or the other one playing, either Njoku or Tillman. Moore doesn't really do a lot to help him. But when you look at them schematically, they do a very good job of using Njoku and Judy together to make one or the other open. You saw it in both of their touchdowns last week. That being said, that's when Judy's ADOT comes out a little bit. When Tillman's out there, they go over the top. So I think that as long as Tillman's playing, Tillman and Judy both are going to be quality starts if you're looking for high ceiling plays. If Tillman does not play and it's Judy on an island, Judy gets smothered. And he can be erased from a game. So Austin, it really comes down to does he have someone on the other side to be able to open him up? So that's how this one goes. They're playing against Kansas City, who they're going to want to chuck it. I mean, this in some very real ways, Cleveland's only in upset mode. Again, the fact that they're on Hard Knocks keeps them in it a little bit longer, and I do think that you're going to see good chucking over the top. But again, that's only if Tillman plays. Do I want to get on Judy? All right, already got one. Well, then why are you putting another Texan out there if you don't want to start more of them? That I guess that's my answer for you, George. If that's the case, I would go with Hunter. Back from your list. If you don't want to have all of the Texans love, it's there. That being said, Miami's gonna that I have that as like the second highest scoring game of the week, maybe third highest scoring game of the week. Second highest scoring game of Sunday. So not necessarily a problem, but if you're worried about that, Henry is also a thing. But Henry is so touch on dependent. I'd worry about that. Start Tracy against Baltimore or Taylor if Garendo doesn't play. Nahal, I gotta go with Taylor. I mean, it's basically anyone but Tracy or Vegas. I mean, that's essentially where I'm at right now. Baltimore is going to absolutely destroy the Giants. Some of you guys are on the sports books that have the 4-tier margins, which is do you win by 13 or less? Do you win by 14 or more? And then you can pick for either team. There's very rare times I pick a team is going to win by 14 or more, but Baltimore is on that list this week, guys. They are going to annihilate the Giants. And the Giants are already trying to lose. And when you get a team that's trying to lose, hitting a tsunami, you end up drowning. And that's basically what's going to happen there. Fly, Eagles, fly. Nick, I'm glad you loved your Philly trip. Welcome to the States and all that. The Steelers have not won in Philadelphia since 1965. So we'll see how it shakes out this year. Obviously, they don't go there a lot, but that is a thing. Jonnu Smith or Jonnu. I have Jonnu as the number 3 tight end this week. Jonnu has incredibly taken off and exploded. He was one of the guys in the offseason in the longs. In fact, Jonnu Smith is on every single best ball mania that we have that we're in the playoffs with in the quest for the 1.5 on the various sources. Jonnu Smith is on all those. I picked him up in the 16th round almost exclusively all summer. He has what Miami wants. He's their true third option, and he has grown above that as the season went on, particularly in the post-Tua return. So, yeah, I am 100% on Jonnu Smith. He's a valuable option regardless of game script because he's so centric to it. I understand those who watched the game last week didn't see the upside until the end, but it still happened. And you don't get points in fantasy football for scoring more in one particular quarter than the other. Jonnu is going to be the one I'm going to want to go with there. Nick, I mean, there are some things that America has that we don't share. And if that's the special delicacy that you found from here or you fell in love with, I'm on the bus. But yeah, no, Welch's in general, like everything they make is awesome. Big on grapefruit, by the way, guys. Go with that. Also, full PPR, who do you flex? Reed, Waddle, McCormick, or Tracy? Honestly, leaning Waddle or McCormick. Well, I'm certainly not going with McCormick. To me, I'd be leaning between Waddle and Reed. I understand that Reed's burnt you a couple times and you want to go with Waddle. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that decision, as Bob would say. But that's the answer I would go with that department is I would want to go either Reed or Waddle. We overlap on Waddle, so Waddle's the one I want to go with. I'm just very, very worried about the Raiders moving the ball enough and getting enough first downs for any of their players to hit double digits. And that includes Bowers. I'm just so worried about the Raiders doing anything this week. I don't want to be invested in that offense. Nick, you can have a question for Bob all you want, but he ain't coming today. So, that's the joy of having in-service days as a school teacher. Sometimes he's got to do teacher stuff. And that's what it is. But the answer is Fairbairn has the most 50-plus yarders. He's in a dome. I like guys that are playing in domes, and just let me verify that he is in a dome both weeks. So for 16, take that back. 16, he's at Kansas City. That's a little bit less appealing. Home against Baltimore's fine in 17, but at Kansas City could be bad for those kickers who are normally in nice warm environments that then go outside into the frozen tundra of the Midwest. Picked up Ferguson to replace Disley and got Johnson as a backup. I mean, that's totally fine. Ferguson gets more volume than Disley, so that is a thing there. That's a good floor play when it's all said and done. Joshua, start one. Debo, Gus, Worthy, Pop, Douglas. Unnecessary context. 12-man league. You do need to know that. Full PPR. Starting outside lineup, outside of the flex pick is. All right, so Kyron, Mixon. So we're basically just doing your flex here. So I love it. First off, I really love your team here, Josh. With Daniels, Kyron, Mixon, Ninko, Chase, DK. I mean, I hate to make this irrelevant, but you already won, even if your flex gives you a 0. So knowing that in the context, I want to go for a really big all or nothing play. The one who can just like make the other guy want to quit and hate your name as they bitch about how you got blown out by Josh in the playoffs for like 6 years. And the only guy of that flex lineup who can give that to you is Worthy. Because if Worthy goes off, Worthy can give you 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards. I don't see Debo doing that at all. I mean, I don't see New England doing enough on their offense to let that one individual receiver do that. So that would be my answer for you, Josh. Given how stacked the rest of your roster is, give me Worthy, and that's how I would go about it. I really, really love your team. If you need I don't think you need the save. Go for it, man. Go for the big W and go for the thing. CC, concern level for King Henry, Flowers, and Matthews, as this thing could get ugly and Baltimore might. That's not how Baltimore rolls. Let me tell you this, CC, as someone who has had to see Baltimore lose for the Steelers' sake for my entire life, Baltimore never benches anyone, ever. They don't do it. So there is no concern for Henry. In fact, I think Henry might put up $160 and 2 touchdowns. I'm running to put Henry in every lineup I can. This is not a concern whatsoever. And that was before they had Hard Knocks in their locker room. Yeah, 100% it's going to be on King Henry. No fear on him. Now, Flowers, on the other hand, is a different conversation. And the reason is because their offense is centric to Henry. They don't force it through Flowers. Flowers tends to be the fun accessory that gets to roll high, but doesn't necessarily, drive the bus. So I'm not worried about a bench at all. At the end of the day, I'm not benching any Ravens. But that being said, King Henry, I think, is going to get all the excess. Flowers might get a little bit. But the rest of it is that's how it would be. So long story short, I'm not concerned about the Ravens. All right. So if you're looking for a week 16 kicker, Atlanta's at home against the Giants. There should be points on their favor. They're at home. Go with the dome. And then before this season, Koo was always super accurate. So you can go with the answer of Koo there if you want, Nick. But again, if you want deep kicker tech, I'm not your guy. If Grenado is out, would you drop the Bills defense to pick up Israel or Taylor? Well, Taylor would be the one if you're doing it. But Jesse, wait, time out. You're not in your playoffs. So I want to back this up and say you shouldn't be picking up anyone if you're not in the playoffs. But in the event that you want to. I would not drop the Bills defense at all because next week they're by far the best defense. And you picked them up for next week anyway. But if Guarendo's out, Guarendo's the one you would cut. So I would look at it like this. If you're not in the playoffs, you shouldn't be doing any ad drops. If you are in the playoffs, I don't know if I'm running, or unless you're starting Taylor, I don't want to run and go make that play. Kendre Miller, I like so juiced. I'm going to go with Kendre Miller over McCormick. Again, the Raiders I think are in a very dead situation, which I don't want to be a part of. Kendre Miller started to show up. Maybe he's getting a little bit out of the doghouse, and more so, we're at the spot in the season where it's time to move on from Kamara, both as a franchise and as a season. Kamara is slowly grinding out. And Kendre's, you got to give him the chance to see if he's your guy or if you got to go into the running back portal next year. So I think we're going to see a lot of looks out of Kendre from this point on throughout the season. I'm not saying he's going to get like 25 touches or anything like that, but I think he's going to give you a lot more quality looks than McCormick overall. I think he's going to give you better production overall. And Kendre Miller, to me, in a pretty easy one there. But I do love juiced prop bets. Gotta always love those, man. Great name. All right, guys, make sure you're also doing the quick hit deep dive system. I love how we're all just throwing the questions rapid fire. I'm treating them all as quick hits. Anyone wants a deep dive, you gotta make it known. Flat out there. All right, Derek. To start one between Chubb, Swift, Tracy, McCormick. Wow, talk about it. That's not first world problems. That is problem town problems. Dude, Chubb should not be on your roster. I mean, just starting point. He just shouldn't. He's broken. It's a broken offense that knows he's broken, and they're having fun chucking the ball, even if they throw 20 pick sixes. So Chubb is 100% not a choice. I think McCormick is going to have a worse day than Tracy is. Because I think the Raiders are going to have a worse day than New York, and that's saying something about how much I keep giving love to Baltimore. Add that all up, the only remaining one is Swift, and oh man, is that an ugly answer? The saving grace for Swift this week is a bunch of the swing passes. It's going to be in a spot where none of these guys are going to have game script in their favor. So I'm going to go with Swift. Just because they're the only one that's not going to get a jillion % obliterated. So, again, Derek, not awesome situation, but Swift's the best of bad choices. No, Jesse, you're not flexing anyone over Charbonnet. So you're definitely not flexing Taylor over Charbonnet. All righty. Henry is about to get 30-plus points this week. King Henry is. Oh, yeah, he is, dude. This is going to be awesome. Cannot hold this back. Like my Henry love is extreme. It's going to be great, especially when you look at everything that's lining up for where Baltimore's at. They should be in a good spot just to lose their chance in 2 weeks. It's going to be great. Build them up just to rip them down. Not sure which one to bench. Grenado, Higgins, Lamb, Cup. Standard League's a big deal with this one. So, well, you're probably going to get the injury to tell you which one to sit out, which is probably going to be Guarendo. In the event that you don't, and we're in a bubble and they're all at perfect full health, the one I would sit out would be Higgins. For a lot of reasons, he gives a lot of in-game possibility of pulling himself for that free agent money. Lamb and Cup are going to go off. So it sucks that you have to make the choice on Guarendo tonight. But again, I think that you're going to get the answer made for you, and he's going to not play anyway. Again, if he does, he does. I'm not banking on him playing and being production. He's the injury health wise. I'm with Austin. That's why I'd have him sitting out. And I also am not totally sure he does play tonight. I get that you keep saying that to try to get in McVay's head, but it doesn't mean it's reality. You have Hurts, and your opponent has A.J. Brown in the first round of the playoffs. You're praying Hurts ices them to teach him a lesson and feeds Smithy all day. Who do you see Philly playing with AJ and the Devontae drama? Well, first off, it wouldn't be Philadelphia if it didn't have some meaningless receiver drama. But the end of the day, AJ Brown is their constant. Devontae Smith is, to go for a hockey reference here, Devontae Smith is that guy who will score a goal when your team wins by 4. That's what he is. Just the thing is, the Eagles normally score a lot. For this Philly Steelers game, I see it being a very run-centric game regardless, though. The thing that pissed AJ Brown off in the first place, I don't think they're changing and becoming a magically fun passing team. What I can see them doing, and this would be so Philly, I can see them calling a lot of AJ Brown outs that put him out of bounds at the 2-yard lines to have Hurts do the tush push to put it in. That's what I think I can see the most, because first off, it helps your team, but also it feels very Philly. And then in terms of the way that the coverage is that the Steelers are better designed to cover a Devontae Smith type than they are an AJ Brown type, as pretty much every other team in the league is. So that's the other fundamental fact I go with there. Has AccuSure frozen over yet? As I pointed out yesterday, I haven't seen the outside world very much in the last couple of days. I do know that it's been teetering around the 30s outside, but in general, yeah, it is a cold place. Although it was not cold this Sunday, it was weird. It was very. We got like those 3 days of warmth you get every December. Purdy or Darnold? It'll rain affect Purdy tonight in the matchup. The shootout potential is good on paper. The shootout potential is very good on paper for tonight, Joe. The thing that you need to look out, and this is my answer for weather in general, is that if the wind is under 15, it shouldn't be a factor. These gloves they actually have a kind of glove that gets stickier when it gets wet. So I'm not worried about the receivers catching it or Purdy putting it out there, as long as the rain is under 15 miles an hour. And that includes the giant torrential downpours, although they don't normally get that in San Francisco. So I want you to look at the weather, get close to kickoff, because God knows the weatherman changes it every 10 minutes. At 8 o'clock, if it says the gust and consistent wind is under 15, I want you to fire up Purdy and not even worry about the rain. This is like golf. That tree doesn't exist. If I win, I'll be taking you and Bob to Morton's. He'll be ready, man. That kid can eat some cow. Maxim. Hey, guys, I'm seeing a lot of new names here. Love seeing y'all come in. Make sure you guys all click like and subscribe. I'm a YouTube host. I have to say that. But specifically for our YouTube channel, please make sure you guys are using the quick hit or deep dive system. That's by starting your comments with either a QH or a DD. That lets me know how much time to spend on it, because the deep dives get more of an answer. You just have to wait for it. That's just one of the things we do here at Local Football Flavor, and we just want to make sure that we spread it out to all of our new viewers that are coming out. All right, Max, we're going to give you some help here. I got Isaac starting as of now, but I've been starting JT and James Connors. Who do I start with? Is he going to be limited? I don't want to start Garendo. And JT and Connor are not the end of the world choices. I know that Connor gives you the ups and the downs, but when Connor goes off, he's going to give you 17, 18. JT is, I think the Colts are winning that game. I know all the math says they shouldn't, but I think the Colts are going to win that game by being ball control, not letting their quarterback be the one who loses, which means at the end of the day, it's JTT time. Give me some Jonathan Taylor touchdowns. And that's how I would go with that one, Max. That's how I'm looking at that. All right, Steven, thinking about sitting A.J. Brown this week in the playoffs in the full PPR. Instead, you're going to be starting Chase and Jennings and McConkey and Rico Dowdle and flex. I'm all for starting Ladd. I love Ladd. So I'm not loving Rico Dowdle. I mean, there's no way around that. He doesn't have a ceiling. A.J. Brown has a ceiling, especially on receiver bitch mode alert. They can just go off sometimes. It's one of my fears with Jennings, quite frankly, is that they do that to Debo. So Steven, I would not do that for a couple of reasons. A, everything I just said about AJ Brown's potential, but do you really want to wake up Tuesday morning and know you missed the playoffs because Rico Dowdle did what Rico Dowdle did every other game this year, which is disappoint America? Like, do you really want to be on that bus? That's a self-reflection question, and I couldn't do that. There's no way I would bench AJ Brown for Rico Dowdle. Should I at least rule out Jennings tonight and decide on McConkey later? Yeah, I would definitely do that part. As a general rule, for all Thursday night football games, put the player in the position slot. Never play a flex on Thursday night football. Even if any other week the dude would be your flex, put him in the position spot. So in this case, Jennings should be in your receiver slot this week just because of the overall flexibility that's provided by the structure of the game. Start Garendo, Pacheco, or Trace. That's Pacheco for me all day, Tingley. Again, everything we were saying earlier about Garendo not being full strength and Tracy being literally running into a wall of water that's going to destroy him, as the whole Giants team will be. I'm on Pacheco all day, every day with this one. And that's going to also, Cleveland can't stop the run to save their lives. So I think Pacheco's going to run right through them. All right, Max, pick 3. AJ, London, Nico, or Jackson Smith and Njigba. So Collins is going to be the easy one there. I got London's the one I'm sitting out in that group. So it'd be AJ Brown, Collins, and then Njigba would be the ones I'm going with. I am just really concerned about Kirk Cousins' ability to get the ball to Drake London. I'm also concerned about, is Kirk Cousins going to finish this game and keep playing throughout it? So London's value to me is on very speculative, pessimistic alert. And I'm worried about the entire Atlanta experience overall because of it. Major deep dive. Oh, I love that one, KJ. We will save you here. Chase Brown or Monty? Monty, man. Monty has been my dude the whole year. The guy produces, and they should score more total points overall as a team. Monty's a bigger percentage of his team's total points scored than Chase Brown is, so that's Monty all day. Pick 2, Kelsey, Neighbors, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore. I'm going to go with Ricardo. I'm going to go with Kelsey and Aaron Jones in this one. At the end of the day, I can't go with Neighbors. The Giants are shutting everybody down, and they're going to shut down that whole second half. DJ Moore is viable as long as he's getting the quick checkdowns, because Minnesota's going to put Chicago in a spot where they're going to have to throw. It is in the dome, so the arm strength issues shouldn't be as big of a problem for Caleb Williams. But the thing with Chicago is they don't score points on the road. We have enough games here to have a trend of this. They don't score on the road, and that's the big concern I have overall for DJ Moore, which puts me back to Kelsey and Aaron Jones, basically by eliminating the other two. Thanks for help. Would you do Pacheco or Najee? I'm going to go on Pacheco. The Philadelphia front is absolutely massive, and they're going to be putting Jalen Carter over 2 rookies. Najee already slams on the brake the second that there's not a hole big enough for him, and he doesn't really wedge his way through. Pacheco is the opposite, with an easier defensive front to run through. Can run through Cleveland all day. I'm going to go with Pacheco. And in this case, the PPR part doesn't matter because neither one of them really catch the ball at any extraordinary rate. So AT, whether we come down to Higgins or Ladd, this is in a spot where if Ladd's healthy, I'm going Ladd all day. More centric to the offense. They're going to score relatively the same amount of points. Ladd should be the easy decision there, but it's going to come down to the health. And I need to know the practice reports for today and tomorrow to really give you a final answer. But in a vacuum, it's going to be Ladd. Next quick hitter. Connor or Jennings or Kupp? Start 2. I'm probably going with the 2 receivers in this one, CC. Again, we've been talking up Jennings here. The only fear I have with Jennings is the Debo bitching factor that he takes too many targets. But Jennings' matchup on paper is just too good. He gets open on the coverage. I mean, it's just the way it is. Jennings has really been the way to take it off. No way, Chase Brown. Get you there for the push off on the earlier question there, Ricardo. Should I flex Granado over either Brian Thomas or Moore? Already have Jennings and McLaurin at the receivers. Yeah, no, I mean, even if you didn't, I would want to start Brian Thomas regardless. Brian Thomas weirdly looks quarterback proof. It doesn't matter how bad the quarterbacks are chucking him the ball. He's making it in there. And that's one. So wait, which one did I pick Chase Brown? Not pick Chase Brown. You guys are yelling at me about. Now I got to go back here. For which the question was, but no, I stand by my original answer. No one's willing to be blunt about this. Are you the only one to trust keep it plan? Is this a time we give up on Brees? Well, the Jets have given up on themselves. So do you want to be on Brees? I'm on the record, and you guys go back to this, as it was one of the scrollers on the stream in like September that it was time to trade Brees. And the whole reason everyone wanted to keep Brees was because the Jets don't play anyone in the playoffs. Well, they don't. But the bigger problem, which is the reason I was out on the Jets, was they're not going to be playing for anything either, and they're going to quit. I do stand by the belief that I don't think Rodgers is playing the Week 18 game and will never play a game in 2025 or beyond. So when I look at all this, is it time to give up on Brees? Part of me says no, because I'm sitting there as Brees Hall. I need to make sure that I go out enough that the Jets don't get one of these really 6 elite running backs entering into the NFL this year. So Brees has massive incentive to show up. I personally, I got rid of Brees a long time ago for a future first round pick. But if you're here with them and you need them, you can't bench them because you're not going to have another viable choice on your roster. So it's unfortunate, but it's kind of the bed you made. You got to sleep in it. But by no means am I buying stock in Brees Hall. He hasn't been in any of my DFS lineups in God knows how long, and he's not going to appear in one there. So, yeah, I'm being blunt. I don't like any of the Jets. I mean, if you're going to go with one, you go with Adams because you're forced to, but you don't want to really be on any of the Jets. It's straightforward to put it there for you, CC. I have Monty, but if I had Chase Brown, I'd start him every time. It's a volume question. Oh, Ricardo, yours was the Chase Brown Monty question. Guys, Chase Brown is not as good as Monty. I don't know how to say that. He's not as talented as a football player. He's not in a higher scoring offense, and he's not a higher percentage share of his offense. Sure, Chase Brown's a top 10 running back, and he's worth playing, but he's not better than Monty. Just as a starting point right there. Who are my smash starts right now? Give me a list because I keep going through all the questions here in DD. There's a lot of them, man. It's easier to narrow down when I have the question. So, Magic, give me who are you debating between, and I'll give you your answers there. Chase is hard to sit, but how do you sit Monty? That's my point. You don't sit Monty. This is a hill I will die on, guys. I'm on Team Monty. And I really have been this entire season since we did our first release of the rosters in May. I have been on Monty, and I'm not getting off now. That's just the way it is. I understand your point about Chase there. Brown's floor, though, is nothing. Brown's floor is single digits. If you look at the way Brown has been playing, if you take his one big run away, each of the last 9 games, you take his single best run in each of those games away, he's averaging under 3.5 a carry. So Brown is getting the blowout, but the other thing that they have not experienced this season yet in Cincinnati, which is weird because of how many points they scored, they're yet to have blowout time when they just need to run the ball out. And Brown is not capable of doing that. So if you get to the end of the game when Brown normally does his big breakout run and they're putting 8 in the box because everyone just knows you're killing the clock. Brown doesn't succeed in that. So that's the other reason for going with Monty. Again, everything about it is that. George, Chase Brown or Jennings? Jennings should put up more points. I would go with Jennings. It's more of a ceiling play, but I would go with Jennings. Would you do Granado? If the choice is between Granado or Moore here, I'm probably going to go with Moore, just for the simple fact of the health. Again, Chicago doesn't score a lot of points on the road, though. That's a very tough one that both of them are probably going to end up disappointing you. But DJ Moore is probably the one I would choose because of the PPR element and just how many times they're going to have to throw the ball. When he throws the ball 40-plus times, Bog brings this up a lot. DJ Moore does produce. So I'm probably going to go with DJ Moore, but not hoping for a whole lot of it. What are the odds? I'm assuming, Mr. Magic, what you're asking is what are the odds Charbs is a running back 1 or 2 for the rest of the season? And unfortunately, that all comes down to Walker's health. So without knowing that answer, it's hard to say. I think he's a flex player the rest of the year. He's actually really developed as probably the second best, maybe third best running back 2 on a roster in terms of what you're getting from him from this point moving forward. He's right there with Algier. I think Wumbo said it best yesterday. Charbs is just a more talented Warren. And that's really what he's playing as. So I would like to go there. Love the community talking to you guys self in internally here. Yes, Chase Brown has no competition for touches. But you see your point that Monty is in the red zone more. He gets better. It's a higher scoring offense. That's the way it is. Like I said, thanks for got my back there, CC. Love it. You think Walker sits till the playoffs, not bringing him back because Charbs is balling. That's one of the ways to look at it, Ricardo. The other part is you don't normally do that kind of thing, though, until you've clinched the playoff spot. And Seattle hasn't done that yet. In fact, there's no guarantee they're going to. They actually don't even control their own. They do control their own destiny, but they have to beat the Rams to do it. The Rams also control their own destiny if they beat Seattle. So in a lot of ways, do I think that Walker's playing this week? Probably not. But Charbs is balling out, and there's less of a reason to bring him back because of that. There you go. Monty might go nuclear this week. He so might. Guys. There's no doubt about that. Team Monty. I'd rather not start Garendo in my flex, but my replacements are Njoku, who's not going to play, and McBride, who might be out. So Ladd might be out. Tillman might be out. Yeah, Wumbo, you're in a rough moment right now, but I do believe McBride, Ladd, and Tillman are all going to play, and I'd rather start all of them over Granado. So I'm not wasting the spot on a Thursday night injured guy when you have 3 guys that all of which are probably going to play. And I wouldn't really worry about that, Wumbo. I would not run out Granado tonight. I agree. Have Monte and never sat him, nor should you. Chase doesn't come off the field. The bottom line is Cincinnati doesn't have a second running back. It was supposed to be Moss. Moss got hurt. It's really interesting to see what they're going to do in the offseason with it. But I would not go with Chase Brown over Monty ever. So I can't even start Devontae Smith in the flex because I might have to use him in your receiver. Wumbo, you're over panicking for Thursday, my man. Just have faith in the process. It's going to work out. I have Braylon, but it's a 50-50. Brace might randomly start. Yeah, Wumbo, you're not screwed. Just chillax. It'll be all good. It's going to be awesome, guys. Just relax. Kyler or Nix, Arizona's going to score more points. Kyler's more likely to give you a pick, but Nix is going to score you more points. As you guys keep debating the Monty and Chase Brown thing, I'm going to dive into KJ's deep dive here. Hurts or Caleb Williams? Full PPR. I see how good the Steelers have been defensively this year. got me a little spooked to play Hurts. Am I overthinking it? Yes. Yes, KJ, you are so overthinking this. First off, Caleb Williams does not do well on the road. He throws up. He has some games he throws up a ton of passes, but he doesn't really put up a ton of points on the scoreboard in terms of touchdowns. Hurts, on the other hand, will. It might be a lower scoring game, but Hurts is going to get them all. I'm willing to bet that Hurts is involved in all 3 of Philadelphia's touchdowns this week. I don't think Caleb Williams. I don't think the Bears score 3 touchdowns this week as a starting point. But that's before you even add in all the scrambles and the whatnots. So as you want to do a major deep dive, and I appreciate you writing that out like that, KJ, you're way overthinking this. Hurts is the answer. The thing with the Steelers is that when given the option between shutting down an elite running back or shutting down an elite quarterback, the only time they ever choose shutting down the running quarterback is Lamar Jackson. The rest of them, you can see it against Washington earlier this year. They let Washington run on them as a scrambling quarterback. They let the quarterbacks run on them. They don't let the elite running backs run on them. It's always been the Steelers' way. Saquon is 100% the bigger focus. They'll probably do contain to try to make Hurts throw from the pocket, but I don't see him getting sacked or anything like that. So as I look at what this team's going to be, you're going to get a lot of tush pushes, and you're going to give a lot of scrambling, especially if he rolls to his left. He doesn't normally roll to his left, but they'll let him roll to his left if he does that. So all in, I would go with Hurts all day over Caleb Williams. Hurts is still a top 5 running back this week. Caleb's probably isn't top 15. I want to give you more depth on this one here, KJ, because you want a major deep dive, but I can't keep re-saying the same thing over and over again. That's the reality of the situation. All righty. Saving lives. Wumbo is now off the edge. Dude, Wumbo, you got to get off the edge. I don't want to see you die. This is going to be my last comment here of the day before I'm off for the weekend. If any of them are out, I'm leaving Joe out of my will. Well, Wumbo, I just want some deep fried food, man. Just hook me up with that, and we'll be all good. You guys have been awesome today. I'll be with you guys Monday of next week with Bob, who will not be doing an in-service day that day. You guys have a great one. See you next week, and go win.
Welcome to Local Football Flavor, connecting the fan bases of the NFL.